But now let's look at the Financial Services Union. They've made a call for a structured debate around the future of banking in Ireland. Possibly a good day to make it with An Taoiseach live in studio. I'm joined by the General Secretary, John O'Connell. Good morning to you, John.
Good morning, Alan.
John, Banking and the Payments Federation of Ireland have highlighted the need for a structured debate on the future of banking in Ireland. So let's look at the devil in the detail then. What are you calling for?
We've looked for a number of months now for there to be a debate on the future of banking in Ireland, and particularly the retail banks. So since we went out and made our call, we obviously welcomed the latest paper from the Banking and Payments Federation, but our union has been calling for this for a considerable amount of time, and the type of scenario that we predicted is now coming to pass. We have two major players leaving the Irish market. We have a tranche of branch closures about to commence next week, where one bank is going to close almost 40% of its network in the Republic of Ireland. And the landscape is changing, and we urgently need a debate. In other countries, for instance, New Zealand and in the UK, there's a debate now about access to cash, and the central banks are consulting the public on these matters. And it's those type of things that impact on all our lives, Alan, that we want to debate. Branches, artificial intelligence, digitisation, digital literacy, for instance.
Right, and at a time when people really need, now that it's reopening a bit, the human touch, the personal story, to be able to go to their bank manager or the people working in the banks, it's becoming more and more difficult for them, isn't it, John, to actually access people. Going to machines and talking on telephone lines ain't the same thing.
No, it's not. And even at that, the banks have used COVID to restrict telephone lines. If you go on to any of the bank's websites now, it's a 9-to-5 service and restricted at weekends. So even people getting access on the phones is restricted. Using COVID as an excuse, the same excuse that has been used to close branches, which we think tells us that the banks and their culture still have a journey to go in terms of correcting when they behave like that, when they punish communities like my hometown in Cahir in County Tipperary that's going to lose its branch, and communities have been punished for adhering to government guidelines.
Which of the banks are did you say 40%?
Almost 40% of the network. There's 88 branches in the Republic of Ireland.
Of which bank?
About to close. In Bank of Ireland. And coincidentally, there's 88 branches in Ulster Bank, some which will be saved by Permanent TSB if an agreement is reached between Permanent TSB and Ulster Bank. About 25 will be saved. But there's another 88 branches that are going to disappear off the landscape as soon as Ulster Bank hand back their banking licence.
What's happening to the staff in these banks?
In terms of, as a result of the campaign that we've ran and the support of the government and the banks themselves, what's called CUPE is going to apply to hundreds of jobs. So AIB is taking a large tranche of loans, and hundreds of jobs are going to transfer to AIB. Permanent TSB are in negotiations. They've signed a non-binding agreement so far with Ulster Bank, which we hope will become a legally binding agreement, which will save, hundreds more jobs, and there will be redundancies, unfortunately. And Permanent TSB's proposal includes taking 25 branches, so at least 25 communities are going to be saved the loss of their bank branch, some of which are last in town branches.
What about Wexford? Have you got some information on the picture in County Wexford, John? Can you share that with us if you do?
The closures in Wexford are Rosslare and Tymon, and in Wicklow, Carnew, Rathdrum and Tinnahealy. Those are the ones. But it's across the country, unfortunately. And in other countries, just across the border in Northern Ireland, for instance, there's branch closures. But the banks have to carry out an assessment of what the impact on the community of the branch closures, and in some instances the regulator will intervene and say, well, you must retain an ATM. And in all these communities where the bank branches are being closed, the ATMs go with them.
Look, the whole idea of the banking review has been endorsed by the Taoiseach Micheál Martin. I can ask him, because he's due to join me very shortly in the studio, does he continue to endorse it? It has cross-party support in the Dáil. But what will be achieved from it? What would you hope to see achieved from it?
I think what will be achieved about is a rebalance. So in terms of the banks are on a journey to improve their culture, and I acknowledge that. And there's good things that happened. And in the Banking Federation report cites COVID-19, how the banks operated and supported customers. And also I'd say cybersecurity is another area where they are trying to protect us from the criminals and so forth. So artificial intelligence is going to impact on all our lives. It's impacting already, but it's going to impact in a greater way. That has to be ethical. There has to be human intervention to oversee these decisions. And that spans across whether you're recruiting people or whether you're doing my banking for me. I want to be able to have a human intervention in that process, that it's not all machine learned with inbuilt biases and so forth. And so digitization, the impact of digitization, we saw the other day Vodafone spending $2 million on its customers for digital literacy. I haven't seen the banks publish figures that they have said that they've invested in digital literacy. So right. I think there's a lot to discuss, and a lot of positives can come out of it.
All right, John, I'll leave it there for the moment. Thank you for giving us an overview of the Wexford situation as well. I wish you well with it. And I suppose I'm not the only one who regrets the loss of so many talented young people in the banking profession. When I say young, a lot of people have retired in their early 50s and well before 60, haven't they? They've taken redundancy packages. That must be a loss to the whole financial services here in Wexford.
And the other loss is the loss of skills. So there's a House of Commons report that shows that when a branch closes, that lending to the small and medium enterprises in that area drops by 64%. And that's because the skills of lending, which is a skill, is gone. It's gone from the community. And you're then dealing with somebody maybe 30 miles away that doesn't understand your business, doesn't understand your farm, doesn't understand the cyclical or seasonal nature of your business. And those skills, are lost forever then, as you say, which is wrong in our view. So that's why there has to be a debate before it's too late, before we're in a situation like we ended up with broadband, where we didn't have a strong network and so forth. We still have a banking network. It's worth protecting.
Okay, we leave it there, John. Thank you for taking our call this morning. That was John O'Connell there from the FSU.